it is time, and I keep thinking I might make a TikTok about this. I think I'm over Brandon Staley. I think I've had time to think about it, and I think I've come around to the idea. And I'm not a Lombardi hater. I know a lot of people blame it on Lombardi. I think I'm ready to blame it on Brandon Staley. Reason being is everything that made him a great coach last year, he is not doing this year. What made him a great coach last year is he was aggressive. He was keeping you on your heels. Yes, the defense wasn't good, but they were always a threat to go for it. They stretched the field even when they didn't have players to. And they played an up-tempo offense, which allowed Austin Eckler to just excel. I mean, he had 20 touchdowns last year. Now we come into this season, we play conservative. We are averaging 2 yards on the ground through the first 3 games, which is unacceptable when you have a top 10 running back in your backfield. Plus Joshua Kelly, who for some reason got 2 snaps last week, who has looked good so far and has looked like a physical runner, to not even put him out there. And that's just the offense. The defense, and then we move over to the defense. Okay, I get it. You have Joey Bosa. He goes out of the game. But to then turn around and have no option that can fill that side, everyone's saying, oh, what happened? They still have Khalil Mack. Well, the Jaguars, all they did was run every play action, every run play to whoever was taking over for Bosa. And that's what they did on the 4th and 1. They just ran straight at the guy who's taking up for Bosa, and they couldn't get off a block. And that just led to an easy 4th and 1 touchdown. Again, my thing about Brandon Staley, and I'll say this over and over again, is he's lost his aggressiveness. That's what made him a good coach. His scheme allows for that kind of thing because his scheme is totally boom or bust. That's how it works. It's going to work on one drive and it's going to fail on some drive. It's going to allow for a big play, especially in the run game. And so to not see him be aggressive, and a lot of people are pointing to the field goal. What I'm pointing to, and this is what the hill I'll die on, is we were in the third quarter. We were down by 13. We had the ball on our own 45, and it was a 4th and 4. Last year, Brandon Staley would have went for that. He wouldn't have kicked the ball back to his defense because he knows they were gassed, which they were. But he decided to punt it, and then the Jaguars go right down the field to make it a 21-point game. And Ace is there. It was right after the 4th and 1 when the Chargers, they got a first down. They were building a little momentum, and then they decided to punt the ball away. Now, I get it. You want to play conservative. You want to believe in your defense. But when your defense is on the field for 40 minutes out of 20, you can't sit there and give them back the ball. That just makes no sense. Again, and I can talk about Brandon Staley all day. I'm really mad that even if Justin Herbert wanted to play with his teammates, at some point you have to be the coach. You cannot let your guy with injured ribs go out there to play in garbage time when you're down by 4 touchdowns. It led to one of our starting players, Jalen Guyton, tearing his ACL of him not pulling starters for some reason. Again, Brandon Staley, I get it. You want your team to build morale, but what morale are you building when you're down by 28 points? No one's going to be like, wow, we only lost by 21. So much better. Like, I'll let you chime in, Clark, because I just went on a long spiel.
Yeah, so I mean, realistically for me, when I look at the Chargers, is I think talent-wise, his team matches up with just about anyone. I understand the injuries happening to like these very key players. I really do. But my concern with the Chargers boils down to a couple things. I think for a while, always the same with the Chargers is depth. Depth has always kind of been a little bit of a myth to me. And I think you see that obviously with the players that go out. I know like when you lose a guy like Joey Bosa, you don't have another guy like that waiting in the wings. However, you should have someone who's at least serviceable, who doesn't make it seem like, oh, there's just nothing on that side of the line. And then same thing kind of goes to the secondary. I get JC Jackson's out, but when everyone on Jacksonville is winning their assignments on the outside and Trevor Lawrence has any target he wants to go to, it does make, because I mean, Derwin James can only be in so many spots at once. I mean, and I like Asante Samuel Jr., they both played really well, but Nasir Adderley has to step up. Michael Davis has to do something, and it just doesn't seem like they do. And then I think the biggest problem to me by far at this point is just coaching. I think what you saw yesterday and what was really the most concerning point for me is that the Jacksonville Jaguars, while I think they are an upstart team, successfully outcoached the Chargers in just about every single facet of that game. And I know Doug Peterson's a good coach, and I know his experience, But man, the teams talent-wise, the Chargers were still better on that field. They should have, 38-10 at your own place is tough. And I get, again, Jacksonville is better than what people gave them credit for going into the year. I tried to warn folks of that. But it's just like Staley lost his aggressiveness, to what your point. I think that 4th and 4 is a great example of it. I think at the same time, too, when you get out-coached on offense, defense, special teams, it feels like it really leaves you wondering, okay, the talent's there, but clearly there's something missing, and it comes back in my mind to coaching. Because, again, to your point, Staley's whole thing last year, mark of it, every team needs some sort of mark, was aggression. And it seems like this season he's become afraid of all of that. And I would have thought really after, the first 2 weeks, he would have maybe come out of his shell more, been like, screw it. We roll the dice. We go for it here. And it was like an even further going back to, okay, we have to be really careful. And then the dumbest decision of the day, you already pointed out. I can't believe Justin Herbert was in when the game was 38-10. I mean, that is begging for something truly terrible to happen, because if the season might already be in a little bit, it's not done by any means. I think it's an overreaction to say something like that, because there's a lot of season left, things can change. I think the Chargers are still uberly talented. You don't know how some of these injuries lengthwise are going to last. But there was if you had lost Herbert, then the season is over. And they were risking that with him out there. And again, I understand he wants to play with his guys. But look, you got to say, hey, man, I get you want that, but you're worth more than anyone on this team. And if we lose you, everything's over. There isn't a next week. There isn't a postseason. There's nothing to play for if you're not out there.
I mean, it's the thing of again, I always come back to when he got injured in the Kansas City game and he came back in. I didn't even think he should come in then. And it was a 10-point game, and you could win with an onside kick. The Chargers were an onside kick away from beating Kansas City. Now, he ended up making the play, so you don't feel as bad about it. But this week was just irresponsible. I mean, he should have been taken out when they were down 21 at the start of the fourth quarter. It shouldn't even gotten to the point where we were going into 4 minutes and we're just letting him take shots for some reason against an offensive line that couldn't protect all day. They didn't have their starting center and they didn't have their left tackle.
And
it's dumb.
Even more so, because I bet you I didn't look at it. I bet Jacksonville probably had their second string guys, and they're treating everything probably like first thing. This is first team reps for them, and they might get a little bit too antsy and take a shot at the guy, and then everything just dismembers. It was the Herbert playing into the game was just a complete, what are we doing?
You know what? There's one more thing I want to complain about with Brandon Staley, and it has to do with maybe the most polarizing player on the team, one that I have had to apologize for many times, but I'm still not a fan. What is the plan with Mike Williams? What do they do with that guy? I get it. They just paid him $20 million. But in 2 games this season, he's had 15 yards and 3 catches. That's been his stat line.
In the touchdown catch.
He had the touchdown. Yeah, he went 1 for 15. And then in the Raiders game, he went 2 for 10. I mean, again, yes, he caught a touchdown. But if you're paying a dude $20 million, you should not be getting out of your opening 3 games without your number 1 receiver, Keenan Allen. Again, he is the one right now. He should not be getting 25 yards across 2 games.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I don't understand. If you're going to pay Mike Williams $20 million, at least feature him in the game plan.
No, I completely agree. I mean, if your number 1 guy is out, I would think there'd almost be more of a sense to force feed Mike Williams.
Exactly.
But it doesn't seem like it's there. And I don't know why they wouldn't take more downfield shots. You saw what he did in that one-on-one coverage he had the touchdown on. He'll go up and get it over most guys. Take a chance. But there seems, I don't know if that goes back to him being scared, Staley or Lombardi on making the mistake. But I agree. Mike Williams, less involvement doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of things that seem upside down in Los Angeles.
Well, I mean, another one that we can talk about is Austin Eckler had 2 rush attempts in the game.
Yeah.
You're talking about a top 10 running back, and you ran the ball twice with him.
I
agree.
You
gave Sony Michel 7 carries.
The obsession with Sony Michel, I do not understand.
I mean, he should have been benched from the moment that pass just dinked off him for a pick on the 5-yard line.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I don't understand. Michelle, there's just personnel change. I think again, it's coaching. It goes back why are we making these decisions? Sony Michel is washed.
He's
washed for some time now, and I like Sony Michel in Georgia, and he had some nice moments in New England. But after he left New England, it was over.
I mean, the thing is, all you're getting out of Sony Michel at this point is a pass blocker, which is not that valuable.
No, it's really not. I mean,
especially when Austin Eckler is probably the best pass blocking running back in the league. Like, it's such a waste of time. Like, what are you doing? You're just asking for a recipe to lose. I get it. You don't have your star players. So why are you taking star players off the field and not featuring them in the game plan?
I know.
The Chargers still, even without all of these guys, they still have stars all over the field. I mean, Asante Samuel Jr., for all you want to say, he looks like a rising star in the league right now.
No, he looks like he's definitely playing really well at corner.
He's looking so good so far. Derwin James was still on the field. Khalil Mack was still on the field. Justin Herbert was still on the field. Mike Williams was still on the field. Austin Eckler was still on the field. Plenty of teams win games with a lot less than that.
Yeah.
I mean, to say I'm frustrated is an understatement. And I'm at the point where if the Chargers don't make the playoffs, I think Brandon Staley's gone.
Well, how could he not be?
I mean, at this point, I'm sitting here and I'm like, especially after all these reports from the like Chargers ex-scout that the like team hates him and that basically they don't believe in him.
That was another really concerning thing, because here's my view on stuff when that stuff comes out, is that in my mind, once you start hearing about it, that means the locker room's already gone.
Yeah.
If you hear about it, that means everyone's already talking about it and they're already like, it's been discussed. Guys don't trust him at that point, and it's just bubbling to the surface, and that's how you know you lost it. But I mean, I would agree, if Staley misses the playoffs, because it's a different situation. He was brought in, I think, after everyone saw Herbert's year. You have a guy like that in year two. The expectation is to compete and win. You give him a pass for the first year, but the Chargers came in what? I mean, again, we're really early. We're still week 3. But this was a team that was, the second best odds in the AFC to win the conference behind Buffalo?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the second best odds team in the AFC should not be losing by 28 points to Jacksonville at home in week 3, even if they do have injuries. I can understand a loss. I have a tough time understanding a 28-point loss. That's a blowout.
No, it's a blowout.
To a team that came across the country.
Well, so another thing I'm going to say, and this is going to be controversial, is I'm starting to get on board with maybe Herbert isn't a winner. I mean, at this point, I know QB isn't a winning stat. I'm not like knocking him down the list that much, but I am starting to think of like, come on, dude, like you're an absolute alien. How does this continue to happen? How do you continue to lose? Like, I'm not going to put it on, because the defense through the first half played extremely well for the circumstance they were put in. They played against 7 possessions in the first half, 2 of them within their own 25-yard line. I mean, that's a tough way to play. And especially the first 4 drives from the Chargers were 3 and outs.
I know.
You were on the field for the entire first half, and they gave up 16 points.
Okay, I will say this. I am not going to buy into the Herbert's not a winner thing.
No, I'm not either, but I'm just, the more that this happens, the more it starts to creep into my head of what is going on here.
Okay, this is my theory on that. I think it's a couple things. I think we talked about it briefly last week. I think scheme-wise, it doesn't help. Like, Herbert needs to be able just to unleash downfield more. I don't know if they don't draw enough plays for him to do that, but there needs to be more explosiveness. I think sometimes, and I think he doesn't help out with it too. I think sometimes he's afraid to make the mistake.
No, that's not what I'm going to talk about. Again, I think this goes back to the Brandon Staley thing. Brandon Staley has made it abundantly clear the kind of receivers he wants on the team are big-bodied, big receivers who can make the 50-50 ball catches. He has made that abundantly clear. He said it in interviews. He said it time and time again, which to me are not the kind of receivers you should be having Justin Herbert play with.
No, Herbert, I mean, you can have one of those guys on there, but they should be able to do more than just one thing.
Honestly, they should only have Josh Palmer. Like, honestly, at this point, Mike Williams,
they have too many.
It's kind of redundant.
Well, because, again, we talked about this. I think Josh Palmer, I think Keenan Allen, and I think Mike Williams all have far too similar of a skill set. They're they're possession big guys. They don't run with the ball after the catch. None of them do.
Like, I mean, every time I look at it, like, what would this offense be with like a Jalen Waddle or a Tyreek Hill or like one of these speed guys to where they can just open, or Jamar Chase? Like, again,
I agree.
These are all the top guys in the league right now. But every time I look at it, I'm like, I'm not going to hate Lombardi because I think the scheme works. I just think there's something wrong with the way it's executed right now. And so this is where I'm getting on board with the Herbert isn't a winner. because I don't think Herbert can make pre-snap reads very much. The more I watch games, the more I'm like, dude, like, come on. Do you even identify coverages? Like, anytime it's cover two, he will not take a shot, even if they have a cover two beater called. Like, they could have a post right through the middle, breaking through safeties, and he will not throw that ball, even if it's past there. And sometimes I'm just like, dude, do you just snap the ball and then see what happens? Like, read the defense before. It's like, that's your job.
I mean, I agree to an extent. I think again, it's only year 3 for the guy, but I think that's one part. Like for a comparison, because as people know, I'm a Bengals fan. I think Herbert would be welcomed if he had some of that gunslinger attitude that Burrow does, where he's just like, I'm going to throw this. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And I agree. I think Herbert has a hesitation to not want to take the deep shot, which is silly to me. And I mean, obviously no one's going to pull, but he has the arm to make every throw. I mean, you see Josh Allen, you see Mahomes. They have the guys that body type the same and have the same caliber arm strength. They make those throws. Herbert just isn't yet. I don't know what the reasoning is or what the holdback is, but I agree. I think there's times where he certainly needs to just unleash it more.
Yeah.
Just let it fly. Let it eat. If it's an interception, who gives a shit? You get the ball back at some point.
Agreed. And especially with this is the thing that I don't get the philosophy. All about the Lombardi's defenses, don't turn the ball over, be really conservative, that kind of thing. But then we have Staley, who's not aggressive anymore. So we're just always giving the ball back to the defense. If we really truly believe in the defense and we're not going to go for it anymore, then take more chances on offense. Because if an interception comes, then you can believe your defense will stop them. Again, they gave up a pick at the 5-yard line, and they gave up 0 yards, and the Jaguars had to kick a field goal. I mean, start taking aggressiveness. If you think your defense can do that, then play that way. Like, you can't just be half in, half out.
No, I agree. And I think the Chargers defense for the first 2 games, like if you needed, evidence to be able to take more risk, the Chargers defense played well the first 2 weeks. You have to trust your defense to stand up if you make a mistake. It's just the reality of it. And I think the Chargers have a good enough one where, okay, yeah, if you let one or two fly and it just doesn't work out and something stupid happens, they'll probably be able to pick you up. You got to trust the other half of it.